Hello and welcome to our second and last lesson of week 5. We're going to multiply polynomials, and we're also going to divide them. So I can multiply a polynomial by a monomial, and I can factor a monomial out of a polynomial. So multiplying a polynomial by a monomial, you've done this before. Okay, very, very beginning, back in August. And everybody's done this. 5 parentheses x minus 2. We use the distributive property. 5 times x, 5x, 5 times -2, -10. We've done that. Okay, this is an example of multiplying a polynomial, x minus 2, by a monomial, 5. What about if I have variables in both? X times x plus 3. I want to do this pictorially. I'm going to show you a picture here. So let's call this purple rectangle and x. On top, we have a purple rectangle, also x, and then 3 squares, yellow squares. Okay, if I do a purple rectangle times a purple rectangle, that's area, length times width. That's x squared. And then yellow times purple, 1 times x is 1x. 1 times x, 1x. 1 times x, 1x. And so my final answer, I've got an x squared and 3 x's. And that's the answer. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Now it's going to get a little more complicated. 4x squared times all of that. So 4x squared times 3x to the third. This uses our exponent rules that we learned in previous weeks. 4 times 3 is 12. X squared times x to the third, like bases, we add the exponents. That's x to the fifth. Now we move on to the next term. 4 times -2 is -8. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Next term, 4 times 10 is 40. X squared times x to the first is x to the third. And 4 times -5 is -20. X squared. If I would classify this, it would be a quintic polynomial because there's 4 terms. Okay. This one's even more complicated. We got 2 variables we're multiplying in to a bunch of terms with multiple variables. -3 times 5 is -15. X squared times x to the fourth is x to the sixth. Y to the first times y squared is y to the third. That's the first set of terms. Now let's multiply the second term by -3x squared y. -3 times 6 is -18. X squared times x to the third is x to the fifth. Y to the first times y to the first is y squared. Last one, -3, and that's a -8 is +24. X squared times x is x to the third, and there's no other y's, so it's just y. Okay, if you take it and do each part individually, it's not too much of a challenge if you knew all the rules from the previous weeks. Okay, so classifying this one, this would be a 9th degree. Now you might be like, where's 9th degree coming from? Remember, if there's 2 variables in the same term, you would add the exponents. So 6 plus 3 is 9, so 9th degree, but there's 3 terms, trinomial. All right, factoring. So it's kind of the opposite of what we just did. We want to take something out of our polynomial. So it's going to look like that, a number, and then a parentheses, another number minus another number. Well, what's that number on the outside? It's the GCF. GCF stands for greatest common factor. What is the biggest number that I can divide out of 6x and 3? Well, hopefully you see that I can divide 3 into both of those. So 3 is my GCF. Now, what is 6x divided by 3? It's just 2x. And then what's 3 divided by 3? It's just 1. So I've undistributed this, or factored it. 3 times 2x would give me 6x. 3 times -1 would give me -3. They go back and forth. Okay. We're going to do one more of those. What's the biggest number I could divide out of 4x to the third, 12x squared, and -8x? Hopefully you see that that's 4. I can take 4 out, but I could also take an x out of each of those. All right, so what I need to do is I'm going to write the GCF on the outside, and then I'm going to divide each thing by 4x. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then x to the third, take out an x, you have x squared. 12 divided by 4 is 3. If I have 2 x's to take 1 out, there's 1 left. And then don't lose the -8x divided by 4x. The x's are going to cancel, and you're going to be left with -2. And that is the factored form of this polynomial. And that concludes our lesson on multiplying and factoring a monomial. And that concludes our week. We'll move on to the conclusion and assessment soon.